Good afternoon. I'm Chief Winslow with the Springfield Police Department, and I'd like to thank everybody who come out today. I stand here today in honor and in sadness to dedicate the roadway and underpass behind me to David R. Tapscott. David was one of our officers for 5 years, the last officer in the Springfield Police Department to make the ultimate sacrifice. The Springfield Police Department was formed in 1840, and since that time, we've lost 10 officers in the line of duty, with the most recent being David. David made the ultimate sacrifice on December 26, 1979. David was born in 1951 in Liberty, Kentucky, to the son of George and Nettie Tapscott. He had 4 brothers and 3 sisters. The family moved to Pleasant Plains, Illinois, where David graduated from Pleasant Plains High School in 1969. While at Plains, David excelled at basketball and track. After graduating high school, David worked at his brother's garage and attended Lincoln Land Community College. At the age of 21, David took the police department entry exam and in 1974 became a proud member of the Springfield Police Department. David loved his profession and excelled at his work. He exemplified the true meaning of being a cop's cop. He was a dedicated officer. He was one who liked to work the streets and enjoyed the challenge that every shift made. You never knew what each day would bring, and that was something that he looked forward to. He served our community graciously and compassionately. He was well liked by his fellow officers and the public. David worked the 3 to 11 shift. He worked downtown driving the prisoner transport van, which would oftentimes lead him to some of the most dangerous calls. On Monday, December 24th, 1979, Christmas Eve, David was once again assigned to the prisoner transport van. David planned on spending the following morning, Christmas Day, at his mother's home, but unfortunately that did not occur. On that wet, rainy, cold night, at approximately 10 p.m., there was a disturbance call at a Northside bar. Officers on scene had requested backup and additional help, and without hesitation, David responded. David would proceed northbound on 9th Street behind a sheriff's deputy, who was also responding to the same call. As David crossed Converse Street and headed down the hill toward what was referred to as the 9th Street underpass, he lost control of the vehicle on the slick surface and struck the center pylon head-on. The prisoner transport van came to rest underneath the railroad trestle. David was critically wounded and transported to St. John's Hospital by ambulance, where he was placed on life support. Word of David's accident quickly spread throughout our community and through the department. A vigil of up to 100 officers, including Chief Howard Rogers and Mayor Mike Houston, stayed at the hospital throughout the night, but unfortunately, David would not recover. On Wednesday evening, December 26th, Officer David Tapscott was taken off life support and passed away at 6:31 p.m. While reading the newspaper articles from that time, it's obvious that the loss of Officer Tapscott was a terrible blow to his family, his friends, his co-workers, and the Springfield community as a whole. The entire community grieved and mourned the loss of a hero that day. David was laid to rest in Pleasant Plains Cemetery on Saturday, December 29th. Those who knew and loved David still painfully grieve 37 years later. The police transport van, Unit 555, was retired after that tragic accident and has never been used since. David was a 5-year veteran of the Springfield Police Department and a mere 28 years old at the time of his death. A hero's life taken far too soon. I can't think of a more appropriate day to be standing here than on Police Officer Memorial Day, to pay tribute to the last officer from the Springfield Police Department, and hopefully the last forever, who made the ultimate sacrifice. This day wouldn't have been impossible without the hard work of many people. This is a 1.5-year long project in the making, and today we concluded with the proper designation of Officer Dave Tapscott Memorial Street. At this time, I'd like to invite Mayor Langfelder forward for a few words.
Thank you, Chief. The Tapscott families, our hearts go out to you on this melancholy day. We appreciate all you've done for our community. As the Chief said, it's the ultimate sacrifice that we hope never happens. But with the procession of the Springfield Police Department It shows you how proud we all should be of our police department, and that the brotherhood and sisterhood of law enforcement continues on no matter how many years pass. They're always there for support of not only the men and women that serve the force, but also the families who give and sacrifice their times. I'd like to acknowledge Alderman Fulgenzi for his help on this project, as well as all the city council members. I believe Alderman Proctor's here, and we just appreciate all their efforts. Before I introduce Mayor Mike Houston, one thing I always say when someone passes, I always say a prayer that I hope there's comfort in the family and their friends, that their loved one, and knowing that their spirit lives on from that point in time. And this sign is a small reminder of that. Officer Tapscott, David Tapscott's spirit lives on through all the lives he's touched, the families, the friends, and it continues to touch our community. And it was with the good support of Representative Tim Butler that the state moved forward with removing the barrier that ultimately took his life, but his spirit lives on and he'll always be remembered for what he's done for Springfield. So we thank you for his service and all you have given to the city of Springfield. And with that, I will turn it over to Mike Houston, and he endeavored the sacrifice that no mayor would like to live through, and we'd like to have him come forward and offer his thoughts.
Thank you, Mayor. You know, on a day like this, I'm first reminded of something that a local funeral director told me some years ago that I've never forgotten. And he said that anytime, no matter how bad the weather is, when we bury someone, it always seems that it sort of clears up just a little bit. And one of the thoughts I had as we stand here today is the good Lord and Dave are looking down and smiling upon what we are doing in terms of remembering what happened just a little over 36 years ago. You know, as we think about this day as Police Memorial Day, we're here to honor Dave, but in honoring Dave, we honor all the past members of the Springfield Police Department, all the present members of the Springfield Police Department, and all the future members of the Springfield Police Department for what they do day in and day out to serve and protect this community. I want to start off by thanking Mayor Langfelder and Representative Tim Butler. I approached the mayor some time ago and suggested, when I read in the paper that they were going to put the new bridge here, that this would be a proper remembrance of Dave Tapscott by naming this overpass for him. You know, there are people here who never knew Dave. The Tapscott family, first of all, has a very rich history of law enforcement. And we were very fortunate to have Dave as a member of the Springfield Police Department. For anybody who knew Dave, if we were going to have a poster made for a recruitment, Dave would have been the person we would have stuck on it. He was good looking, he was young, he was muscular, but one of the most important things about Dave was that he had a smile, he was kind, and he would be the type of police officer that we would like every police officer to be. Dave was a very, very unique person. The chief mentioned that one of the things that he did was that back in those days, we went to smaller cars and we used a prisoner transport that covered the downtown area because it was really hard to transport a prisoner in that particular type of vehicle. And Dave would travel the downtown area But anytime anything was going on, and he'd stay right around the old state capitol, he would then go out as a backup or to make the trip in with that prisoner. I never remember any complaints against Dave, because he was the type of person that really loved his job and knew how to treat people. He had a smile that just really was very, very unique. In December of 1979, one of the things I used to do was one time a month, I'd come down on a Friday or Saturday night, and I would ride with the police officer, just whoever they happened to put me with. And when you ride with an officer, I generally go in around 8 and stay to 3 in the morning, and you spend 3 to 4 hours with a guy in a car or a gal. Normally, they weren't real talkative when I'd get in the car, but in a 3 or 4 hour period, they became talkative. And I learned an awful lot of things as a result of doing that. That December, I rode with Dave, and one of the trips we made was from downtown to a disturbance out here right across from Wedgwood. There was another mobile home park, and we made the trip right down this road. Christmas Eve of 1979, I was home. My daughters were 12 and 5. I was putting together the Christmas presents that needed to be assembled when I got the call. I had to get the presents put together after they went to bed. I did that, and then went to the hospital and spent the evening into the next morning. It's nothing I ever want to experience like that again. But the reality is that every member of the Springfield Police Department faces that type of thing on a daily basis when they go to work. Dave went to work that day like any other day, expecting to do a good job and to go home. This city will never be able to pay the debt that we owe him or his family for all they have contributed, and this is just really a very small token of the appreciation that we have for him. And I know that every time I drive through this intersection or this underpass, I think about what happened that evening, and I hope that when people who never knew Dave Tapscott see this sign, that they'll ask the question, and for those of us that did know Dave, we'll remember. Thank you.
Representative Butler.
Thank you, Chief, and thank you all for being here today. This is a wonderful tribute to the life and the memory of Officer Tapscott, and to the Tapscott family. Let me just personally say my heartfelt thanks for allowing me to play a small role in advancing this. Myself and Senator Brady being able to get this through the General Assembly. We make things tough on trying to get things through the General Assembly, so here we are 37 years later and having this happen. But thank you for allowing me to play a part. Thank you to Mayor Houston and to Mayor Langfelder for the work they have done on this, and to John Fulgenzi, Alderman Fulgenzi. He's the first one that put this in my ear, and I appreciate you coming forward and talking to me about this so we could make that happen. Let me just say a word about the men in blue behind us, and that it was a beautiful procession that we saw on this commemoration day for our fallen police officers across the state. And it's really an honor for me to represent the Springfield Police Department and the work that they do in the state capitol. I know I've had the opportunity to call the Springfield Police Department a few times, and they have responded tremendously, and I've always had wonderful interactions with them, Chief. So thank you very much for the work that you do, and all the men and women of the police department. You know, I one of the things that's amazed me since we were able to pass this legislation to name this street in honor of Dave was the number of people that have approached me in the community that knew him. I was also 12 years old when Dave died, so I grew up in Peoria. I had no idea who he was, but when I was approached about this and learned about him, and then we got it passed in the General Assembly, I can't tell you how many people have approached me in the community talking about who he was and his memory and the fact that they had an impact on his life. And that's truly touched me to realize that this long, 4 decades on almost, that his memory and his legacy still lives on. And I think you and the family should be proud of that. There's a lot of people that in this community that have been impacted by Dave, and you should live fully with that idea that that's comforting to you. You know, I've in my short 2 years in the General Assembly, I've gone to too many of these where we've named streets and highways in honor of those who have been killed in the line of duty, our police officers. I hope we get to one day where I don't have to do this anymore. But it's certainly a fitting honor for those who have given the ultimate sacrifice, a small bit of comfort that we can give to the families, knowing that forever there will be, when you drive by here, this will be this honor to Dave and his memory and so on. And I think there actually could be no more fitting honor than when you look down 9th Street here and see the center pier removed. That's probably the best way to honor Dave, is that we know that that's not going to happen ever again with what happened to him. So it's truly an honor for me to be here. Thank you very much. And I believe I'm introducing Jim Tapscott to say a few words on behalf of the family. So thank you very much.
Thank you. On behalf of the Tapscott family, I would like to thank Mayor Langfelder, Mayor Houston, Chief Winslow, Representative Butler, and all of you for braving the weather. We have a break, which is nice, to come together for this memorial dedication to honor my uncle, Dave Tapscott. A special heartfelt thank you goes out to all of the now retired police officers, dispatchers, first responders that are in attendance today that worked with Dave and knew him for the man that he was. A loyal friend, a dedicated police officer, someone that you could depend on when you needed them. Dave was the kind of police officer that we all aspire to become. He was competent, professional, hardworking. He also had a charismatic and charming personality that seemed to endear him to everyone he met. Throughout my career, I've had the privilege to meet some of the officers that worked with Dave. They shared with me stories about the calls they went on, the good times they had, and all the other times they shared back in the day. They also expressed to me how difficult it was for them after Dave's accident. We lost a good one that night, they'd say. That's for sure. Throughout the years, there's been many changes in Springfield. Administrations have come and gone, and the once bright-eyed young officers have now finished their tour of duty and moved into retirement. But the memory of Officer David Tapscott has not faded. The Springfield community has never forgotten the sacrifice made by one of their own. It's in this sense of community and partnership that stands as a testament to the character of the citizens of Springfield and its example that they respect and honor their fallen. On behalf of the Tapscott family, we say thank you. We're both honored and humbled by this show of support. Thanks again for coming out for this memorial dedication. Thank you.
At this point in time, Kenny, can you come forward for a second? On behalf of the Springfield Police Department, I'd like to represent and give you this token of our appreciation. It will never be named